I'd like to show you the Rolling Corvette project. And what you'll need is this folder here, the Rolling Corvette folder. Also, you'll need this Corvette PSD, which is a Photoshop file. So if you double click on this file, it'll open it in Adobe Photoshop. Also, here's an example of what your project could look like, and it is this animation right here. So what we're going to do in Photoshop is prepare the Corvette for Adobe Flash, and you'll also need Adobe Illustrator so that you can illustrate the cityscape and the background elements, also the road. Okay, let's start in Adobe Photoshop. So double click on the Corvette file and you will get this file open up in Adobe Photoshop. I don't need two, so I'm going to close out one of them. So here's one, and I want you to just take a look at the two layers that I have for you, the shadow layer and the Corvette layer. So first we'll go to the Corvette layer, and we want to select the front wheel and the back wheel and make a copy of it. We'll do some other things here too to prepare it. So let's go ahead and use the magnifying glass tool and zoom in on the front wheel. Now you'll want to open up the rulers here. Control R opens and closes the rulers, so we have them open, and bring out a guide to mark that front tire here. Now we're going to go to the ellipse marquee tool, and that one is hidden just under the rectangle tool. So if you click and hold the rectangle marquee tool, you can get to the ellipse marquee tool. So now we're on the ellipse marquee tool. We'll go to the crosshairs here of our two guides, and I'll hold shift so I can keep it a perfect circle. So as close as you can, make a selection of that tire, and if you miss, it's okay. You can adjust your selection so it's centered right over the tire here. So something like that. And then what you'll want to do is make sure you're on the Corvette layer and hit Control C, Control V for copy and paste. And you could click your eyeball off on the Corvette layer and take a look at the wheel that you just copied and pasted. What you'll want to do is call this one Wheel 1. And let's go to the back wheel here. Again, you can use the hand tool here by holding the space bar. That will take you back to this back wheel. I'm going to bring another guide out to the back wheel of the Corvette. I'm going to do the same thing. Use the elliptical marquee tool. Hold shift to try to keep it a perfect circle. And then I'm going to move to put the selection as best as I can around the tire here. Then I'm going to go to the Corvette layer, hit copy and paste. I'll look at my next wheel, and I'll call this one Wheel 2. So the other problem with our file here, I'm going to hit Control 0 so we can look at all of it. The other problem with our file here is we have all this white, so we need to get rid of this. So here's a special tool. Right underneath the Quick Selection tool is the Magic Wand tool. So I'm going to click on the Magic Wand tool, and I want to change my tolerance here to 40. So let's change it to 40, and just make sure you're on the Corvette layer here, and I'm going to select all this white around here. I did notice that it selected a lot into the windshield, and so I don't like that. So let me change my tolerance here to 10 and see if I get a better. I did. So I changed my tolerance to 10, and it didn't cut into the windshield here, so that looks much better than the selection we had before. But now we have this drop shadow down here that I want to get rid of. So now I'll change my tolerance back to 40, and I'm going to additionally select this shadow down here. And in order to do that, you'll need to hold shift, and it brings up that little plus sign next to the Magic Wand tool, and I'll click on on that gray. I still need to get some more. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now we have a pretty good selection. It did mess up around here, so I don't like that. And it did cut back into the windshield. So what we can do to fix that is, I'll show you that here in a second. So what we'll do, I want you to make a note of the selection, that it's all around the car. Not the selection isn't on the car, it's actually all on this white. So then we'll go to this tool down here. This one is called the layer mask. We'll click on the layer mask, and what it has done is only removed just the car. So what we want is we want to remove all the white. So what we can do is click on the mask itself and hit Control-I, and that will bring the car back. If you want to temporarily turn off the eyeball on the wheel 1 and wheel 2, just so we can see what we're focusing on the car. If you click on the mask, I want you to see the difference between, now I have the image selected, now I have the mask selected. So if I go to the mask and then I go to a brush tool, I can brush back in the windshield and this light over here on the Corvette, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm on the layer mask here, and I'm going to paint back in white on the layer mask. I'm going to click here, I'll hold shift, and then I'll click here, and that brings back in some of the windshield. I'm going to go back down here and bring back in some of that headlight here. This right here, if I want to get rid of this, I can switch it to black and paint right here to get rid of some of that. So that should be pretty good. Also, what I want to do is take this new drop shadow here. I want you to take a look at the drop shadow. This is called a blending mode. I have the blending mode set on multiply, and also I lowered the opacity of it to 67. And I'm going to just take that layer and drop it below the Corvette. So that looks pretty good. And I'm going to turn back on the eyeball, wheel 1 and wheel 2. And this is in good shape. The other thing I want to do here is I'd like to put some opacity here in the windshield. And I'm going to do something a little tricky with the mask. So I'm going to take the magic wand tool. I need to be on the correct layer. I'm going to take the magic wand tool, click on that windshield. But instead of using black or white, I'm going to use a gray. Maybe a light gray. I'll go back to my brush tool, and I'll brush on the windshield a light gray. Except I did that wrong. I'm going to undo that, Control Z. I need to be not on the image, because I was actually painting gray on that area. I need to be on the mask. So now let me paint gray. And that didn't work either. I need this, somehow this changed back to black, so let's change it to gray here. Now we're cooking. We'll paint this with gray on the mask. I'm using gray here and gray brush. Now we have a little bit of opacity on that windshield. So I'll hit Control D to deselect that windshield. And now we have our Corvette file all prepared and ready to go. Now we need to hit save. So File, Save.